I'd like to start by sharing who I am in regards to my identity. Now, I have three primary identities, the first being deaf, the second being Jewish, and the third being a woman. That is intersectionality, my various identities. I do have other identities as well, but these three most strongly influence who I am. And it also depends on context. It's very situational. For example, if there's something wrong in the deaf community, then I really hone in on that part of my identity. In other contexts, if there's anti-Semitism happening, then I go up and stand for Jewish people. Or the same thing with women's rights and women's issues. So this identity is constantly shifting based on the situation. My topic today is my way of presenting and encouraging all of you to think about what you're doing with your art, whether it be dancing, writing, reading, performing. There are so many different beautiful types of art. And what do we do with that? Turn to my slide here for a moment. I have my art here. And then we have activism. Now there's many different signs for activism. This sign, similar to rebel, or showing the action and doing, being involved, or this sign showing urgency, facing the challenge. So again, there's many different signs for that word activism. When you have art and activism and they overlap, how do you sign that? Well, this is my sign. That art is impacting change or causing change. Art is beautiful, but will it have an impact? Will it cause change? That word was coined recently, not long ago. In 2008, it was coined by two women, Mexican Latino women, and then one African American Black male. The two women came together to form this work. The first one is Sandoval. She is a theorist and philosopher. And the second woman is Latour. She has a PhD in fine arts. So these two women worked together and they studied what they observed in culture related to activism, art, and how that can enact change. That's when they figured out this word. Art and activism put together is Artivism. Then we have M.K. Asante. He is a writer, a storyteller, a filmmaker, and a teacher. He works at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, which is historically a Black school. And he also came up with that word, Artivism, at the same time as the other two women. Now, prior to that, there were people, many artists in history, that did use their art to rebel against the government. Various artists did do this. From really all over the world. They did already rebel, but that word, that specific word, was coined by these three people. Next slide, please. Now this quote is from M.K. Asante. And really, it makes sense. All of us have a responsibility to be involved in the community. When we see wrongful things happening, issues with the system that are oppressing people, it's our duty to help. People who aren't white males, who aren't straight, maybe they're not hearing, other minority groups. We need to stand up for them. And when they're oppressed, it's our responsibility to speak up and help. or protest, write letters, go to marches. Many people go to rallies to support these issues. They write complaint letters, they collect signatures, or even just conversations in your personal life, at dinner table with friends, with family. I'm sure we've all experienced that, various discussions. Well, where does that merge with art? You can use art, really in any form, along with activism to make an impact. And this has happened in the deaf community throughout history. There's many examples of deaf people using art to invoke change. One example is the Devia group, which was established in 1989. But prior to that, there was activism happening through art. That's just when they coined the name of activism, that movement. They described how art could invoke this change. And that was finally recognized in 1989. And then many years later, in 2009, a man who was a deaf-blind Frenchman, Arnaud Ballard. He was not familiar with Devia. He hadn't studied this, but he did his own research in France. And he decided to write a manifesto. And this focused on absurdism. So he wrote this manifesto in 2009. And then someone saw his work and the work of Devia and saw all the similarities between the two. Now, Ballard's was more specific, talked about different genres, poetry, performance, art, dancing, that was all involved. But it was based on the experience of deaf people, deafhood, autism, social injustice. It was a very specific intention that he had to invoke change through his manifesto. And it's just really incredible to see the comparisons between these two. Now, Devia is an older group, a group of elders, and they did invoke change through their art. And then many years later, what happened was the creation of the internet. That happened around 2007, 2008. And there's a lot of things on the internet in regards to the protest at Gallaudet and also the FSSA. So you had YouTube, you could see various videos about the protests, and then artists were seeing these and then adding their own tidbits as well, whether it be poetry, but that really helped make an impact and make change. The community felt motivated, you could spread the word easier, and then various organizations began popping up based on this shared knowledge, such as the Deaf Bilingual Coalition, or DBC, Autism Free America. There were so many of these organizations, as well as Stand United. People were really wowed by this organization. They wanted to get involved. They wanted to roll up their sleeves and do something and actually make an impact. And this caused a chain reaction, making changes in schools, in the community. It was really wonderful. Now, as time went by, they did change their name. It's now called Certis United. It has a specific meaning to make an impact, to invoke change through Artivism. I'll give you an example. You see this picture here on the slide, that image? Autism Free America. They were ready for something different. They wanted to do something. They wanted something more in your face that people would recognize in regards to Alexander Graham Bell. Because the typical response is parades and hats off to him and celebrating him. So they decided to go to Washington, D.C. to Volta for this celebration. People were texting about it, posting on Facebook, including myself, just observing what was going on there. Well, through one simple act, it was really so simple, this one woman decided she would get some blue painter's tape. So she took that tape and she marched herself up to that building, and there's a large plaque up there. It's the name of the building. And she used that tape and removed the words deaf and hard of hearing. Well, she removed the word hard from the word hard of hearing. So now it said A.G. Bell for hearing, right? You can see in the picture there. And she took a picture and then posted it online. And boy, did it make some noise. The response, especially from the deaf community, everyone was saying, oh, that is so awful. Oh my gosh, you destructed the building. That's vandalism. That's awful. That's terrible. You can peel it right off. It's tape. I mean, come on. It was a simple act of art, really, that made this huge impact. Good job. Here's another example. This image is from the National Institutes of Health, or NIH. They funded all of this medical research. Now, back in the 80s, they approved research for observing cochlear implant surgeries in infants and toddlers, and they gave the go-ahead for this research. Now, in early research, it was found that 12 babies or toddlers died from complications of this surgery, but it was swept under the rug. It was hidden. It wasn't shared with the public. It wasn't until later in which we found out. A doctor shared a story through an interview, and then various artists and poets saw this video and were just very struck by this situation. So they decided to spread the word about this situation, the awful things that happened. Well, they decided a very simple gesture. They brought 12 flags and they put them in front of the building, as you can see in this picture. And what happened? The police showed up. They're saying, what are you doing? You can't touch that. And that's all they could pay attention to. Now, the people weren't arrested, but they were kicked off of the property. And one person started taking a video, and the police said, you can't video me. But they did get this picture. And again, it's just a very simple act. But it sure made a difference. Here's my next example. This is more recent. In 2017, just 2 years ago, Atlanta, Georgia had a conference, EHDI. This stands for Early Detection of Hearing Loss, catching this in children, and how to help. It tells parents what to do. Oh, your baby's deaf? We'll give you referrals, that type of thing. This organization was involved in all 50 states. And what they did was they would try to find deaf babies. And typically, when they found these parents of deaf babies, they would focus on speech training and an audiological perspective. Now, in the past, Autism Free America, they would actually come to these conferences. And they would march, they would protest outside, but it wasn't inside the conference. A few people would show up on the registration, but they were asked to leave every time. Year after year, they would come to this conference and they would set up a booth across from the conference. They wouldn't actually go in, but then one year someone had an idea. Well, this was in Atlanta, Georgia, this specific conference, and this person lived in Atlanta. So they decided to contact Stan DAU, Devia at the time, and said, would you mind joining me in having a booth at this EHDI conference? We can have a table, but it'll be just art. Nothing else, just art. Not DBC, not other organizations, just artwork. And they wanted to show student work. That's it. Not from adults. Typically, adult artwork shows the happiness, the pride of deafhood. So they decided to line the walls behind the table with student artwork. And wow, it was very powerful artwork. I'll show you what the booth looked like. I have a video here. Can you go ahead and play the video, please? Can you pause it there? Interesting, right? That booth was huge. It was tall, it was colorful. And when you went into this building, there were many booths set up, but this one really popped. It had a large flag, it was very eye-catching, you couldn't miss it. Now, to the right of that specific table, EHDI had NCHAM, the National Center for Hearing Assessment and Management. They were responsible for EHDI, and they were watching our table and our behavior, and Carl White was there looking at us. So we smiled and waved and offered him a pin, and we gave him a picture, and he just walked away looking like this, and we smiled. And then a few audiologists had come up to the table. We said, hello, take a look. Now the audiologists, their expression while they were looking at this artwork, I'll model it for you. Oh, this is student art? Yep, student artwork. Yeah, enjoy, take a look. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. And this was not my story. This was the students, their story. So did that booth actually make a change? What do you think? Next slide, please. Okay. This is a theory, a model. It's called the social ecological model. This is used frequently in medical fields, political fields, social fields. This is an old model. It's from the 80s. But now the point of this model, it starts with the individual, and that can impact the system. Or vice versa, the system can impact an individual. For example, using the medical field, obesity. That's a common problem. Well, the system encourages people to buy soda. There's no information about nutrition. There's no guide for people. So the system decided to change. Sodas had nutrition labels, and that trickled down and helped individuals make decisions about how to select food and drink more carefully in order to reduce obesity. So that's how this model works. It trickles down. Or me as an individual, if I'm not happy with the system, then I can write letters, I can share my opinion, or write articles, conduct studies, and then that can make an impact and change the system. So that's how this model works. Now, how does this relate to Artivism? Well, you have the individual, the person making the art, and then they share their art, and other people see it. But it's still just the individual at this point. But then me as an individual, I see another artist and their experience, and we can share with each other. And then there's two of us sharing our art. And then someone else sees us, and now there's 3, 4, 5. And we think, well, what if we start an organization with all of us? Can work together and collaborate. That's how it progresses. But then the deaf community sees this and thinks, well, what's that? And we experience its criticism. And then the deaf community over time realizes, wait a minute, I think you're right. I want to support this. And that's how you can change policies. Organizations in the community. That is our challenge that we face every day. Now, I want to explain something. Disclaimer. I'm here while on personal leave. I'm not representing my workplace. I'm here as an individual. That's important to remember. There's a clear boundary, and we have this mutual respect. Me and my workplace. And that's an everyday challenge. Been a professional for 27 years in school psychology. I worked as a counselor with many, many deaf and hard of hearing children, ranging in age from 3 to 21. And I have seen a lot over the years. A lot of injustice. And I recognize that the system isn't fair. The system promotes oppression in many ways. And I've seen parents struggling too. And they should be working in collaboration with us, but they get their information from the system, from the medical field, or from policymakers. I've seen this time and time again. And enough is enough, right? A while ago, I began writing, and if I saw some wrongdoing, then I would write about it, and I would post about it online. And boy, the reactions from that. So I kept writing, posting, blogging, and then YouTube became a thing. So I started vlogging. I would make signed videos, and people would watch these videos, and I got a lot of praise. And I made one video called The Greatest Irony. And this video made a significant impact. That video caused the system to challenge me. In the workplace, people were saying, Amy is not neutral, she's biased. The deaf community was bullying and cyberbullying me. So I just tried to work through this, and I kept my mouth shut. I was silent for 4 years. I towed this line very cautiously. That's what this image shows. I made that in 2016 because I was fed up. So I decided to make this piece of art. A person walking on that tightrope. That was very liberating for me to put my feelings out there. Everything that I was holding inside, I put it on paper and showed people how I was feeling. I was able to make an impact through my artwork. All right, this is a little off topic. So the deaf experience portrayed through art, and then political art. Those are separate things. When I say deaf experience, I mean Devia, Absurdism, or individual experience. Artists, writers, poets, dancers, all of that. Everyone here in this room today, you've all made a difference. So hats off to you. We honor you. It's an honor to meet all of you. So thank you for everything that you've done. And that's within our community. We rise to challenge the system, and we work to improve our community. Now, political art, this can mean climate change, weather change, how that impacts our earth, government systems, Democrats, Republicans, independents, liberals, people making decisions, voting. That represents us as Americans. What are other political examples? Black Lives Matter, the BLM movement, issues at the border, specifically the Mexican border, where children are being separated from their families and put into cages, and then secretly being adopted off. These stories happen every day. Is the deaf community separate from all these issues? No. No, we are impacted by those issues. We have deaf, Black boys who are worried about encountering the police every day. We have many Mexican children that are worried, deaf Mexican children, that are worried that they may be taken from their families. So yes, the deaf community is impacted. That is part of our story. So the general public, are they listening to us and recognizing our struggles? Is there a disconnect? Well, let's see. Next slide, please. Now, I'd like to emphasize, I learned that political expression is protected. Writing is protected. Signed videos are protected. Dance is protected. Performance you can protect. And art is the same thing, it's protected. Now, there's a spectrum. In my experience, the minute you put your name on something and people see it, you open yourself up to criticism. That happened with me. It's hard to separate my face from this artwork now. But that aside, it got me thinking. My art can be separate from me. Look at the art. Don't look at me and who I am. Just look at the art and let it speak for itself. And however you interpret it, that is on you. Whatever meaning you come up with, that is your interpretation. And that really helped me. And then my workplace left me alone. It was a huge relief. I would do my art, I would post it, show people, and I heard nothing. Tried a few more times, heard nothing. Their only request was, Amy, don't have your work right in my face. And I said, okay, that's fine. I don't have to shove my work down your throat. That was easy enough for me. Now again, we have political art and the deaf experience. They can come together and function as one. Through history, there's been many deaf experiences shown through art, time and time again. But the issue is that not everyone understands the meaning of this art. Some get it, but the general population does not. Now, with political art, we have this widespread understanding. The general population, deaf people, everyone understands it. So when you take deaf art and intertwine it with political art, you can really get your message across. You can express yourself through political art and incorporate the deaf experience. Let me give you an example. The first image, you can see a boy at the Mexican border. And I added that symbol in the barbed wire. It looks like the I love you symbol next to his face. Now you can interpret that however you want. The next one is reminiscent of Chuck Baird with the hands. Now the hands, are they squandering the earth and taking advantage, or are they holding the earth to protect and save the earth? Or the final image on the slide is about a black deaf man who was killed by the police. And I specifically use octagons in this. That shows solidarity with the deaf community and the black community. And then the barriers with hearing people. It's hard to get through to hearing people. It's easy for them to attack us and target us. It's like their guns are pointed at us. That was related to Black Lives Matter. Next slide, please. Oh, we're running out of time here. Okay, I'm sorry. So every day, people are scrolling on their phones, on Instagram. You see all of these images posted on your timeline. Now, if someone sees a picture and thinks, wow, I really like that, and then you like it, right? You add that heart to the photo. That is important. It makes artists feel good about their work. Just take 1 minute to look at my artwork, and that can make an impact. That's my challenge. When you're scrolling on Instagram, like the pictures, you can really make a difference. Can you do that? Thank you all.